Hey there viewers, and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the Pro-Cut PFM 9.0. It is an on-car brake lathe. So the idea behind this piece of equipment is really to make your life a lot easier. So here's the not so hypothetical story. You have a hub flange and a wheel bearing and all of these what we call stacked tolerances, and then you have a brake rotor, and then you have a brake caliper with pads squeezing said rotor. So with what we're going to call stacked tolerances, we might get a little bit of weeble wobble kind of going on. And if I have the rotor absolutely perfect, let's say a 0.000 warp factor going on my rotor, my hub flange isn't quite perfect because my wheel bearing's not perfect. You know, you kind of get the idea here. Enter this little guy. So what he does is he cuts the rotor perfectly true while it's on the car. So if there's, let's say, a 2000ths run out of warpage in the hub assembly, it's going to cut that into your disc, and then nothing will have a weeble wobble when you have everything put back together. So keeping in mind stacked tolerances. So kind of a cool idea on some of the vehicles where it's very difficult to take the rotors off, like the older Hondas, some of the Mazdas, older Fords. Just depends what you're working on. The 90s, you know, not half, like the 3/4 and the 1-ton Chevy trucks where you got a bunch of the rotors don't just slide off of those vehicles. This is really going to be your friend. So step one on this, obviously, we got the wheel removed. Step two is let's check and make sure that we have enough meat on the rotor. So it's a nice piece of equipment, it's a great thing to have, but we want to be able to keep using that rotor when we're finished with it. We don't want it to be below the, I call it the legal limit, if you will, the throwaway dimension, the discard. So we'll check it beforehand. We want to take a minimum, I want to say a 4/1000ths off each side, so you can take whatever it is minus 8/1000ths and see if you can do this. We're not too worried about the car we have today, it's just a shop car. So we're really here just to give you a demonstration on this Pro-Cut lathe, how we're going to use it here in our shop. Let's take a look at this car. First step, we're going to lose the caliper. Actually, maybe we'll put that in a couple turns. So we got to make room for the cutting head, and we can do it with it turned a little bit. It doesn't necessarily just have to fit casually in the wheel well. I'm gonna pull here. Push on this. Should have got a screwdriver. Fight process here. So there's little nubs on your brake pads. I might just grab a screwdriver. Anyway, I was saying, just compress the piston back a little bit. There's little nubbies. What is going on? There we go. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Gets stuck on the abutment hardware sometimes. Just try not to drop the pads on the floor. Anyway, you can see these little nubs. They get caught up in the caliper piston and things like that. So that's interesting. Our abutment hardware usually stays with the caliper. So I'm just going to pull that off. It's optional, I just don't want to lose it. Now we're going to suspend the caliper by the hook. That's fancy talk for a bungee cord, by the way. Whatever, they make these neat little caliper hanging hooks. I would suggest you pick a couple up. They're usually pretty fluorescent color, such that you don't forget them on the vehicle. Our next step, so that we have room for the cutter head, we could actually probably, on this car, leave the caliper bracket on. So I'm going to elect to do so. Word of the wise, rotate. Now you see what that's for. If you have excessive scale and rust and garbage buildup on your hub face, enhance, it would be very worth your while to clean all of that off. We cleaned this one up last year, so everything should be good. I can still smell the croil on the lug nuts. So if you don't know what that product is, look it up. I'm not going to say it's overpriced for what it is, but it's very spendy. So anyway, so everything's clean here. We're just going to wipe all this stuff off. Any rust, garbage needs to be cleaned from both the hub face and the face of the rotor, so it's, you know, pretty clean. because otherwise our adapter ain't gonna quite fit on it right. So let's put the adapter on. So I just picked an adapter that looks like it's gonna work on this car, and see how it only fits in a certain spot here. So you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see the numbers on it, but we're fitting in 7. It's not like it's gonna clock into that spot. It's really only gonna fit on the car in one area. Then what you do is you're gonna take your lugs, and I'm pretty sure they have purposefully, that being Pro-Cut, being they, have purposefully designed this hub such that you cannot use impact tools on your lugs. And if you watch their training video, they actually tell you that. So I think a little bit of thought process kind of went in as far as that's concerned. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put these on loose so the rotor can still move, and then we just wanna make sure that all our lug studs are in hole 7 and that we're tightening everything up good. If you wanna watch one of my other brake job videos, like either the Buick, LeSabre, or the Enclave, or whatever else I have, I go through how to clean the hub, clean the rotor, and all of that other good stuff. It would also be wise when you're finished with this to mark the position of the rotor to the lug studs, if you will. What's up? Yeah, Pro-Cut. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to just rotate this knob here to bring the cutter head away so you don't crash. I've plugged everything in. You don't have to turn anything on quite yet. I've unlocked this gimbal, and we're just going to bring the machine. You actually got to have the car pretty close to the ground. And I can already see I'm going to hit the vehicle here on the side, which, you know, no good. So, we're going to do a little rotation. All right. Get that out of our way. And just straighten the steering knuckle back out. Okay. And you can rotate the cutter head if it doesn't quite fit into the wheel well. So you can also pivot the machine back. So hopefully you can kind of see that on camera. And we're just going to bring the hub up. Rotate that a bit. It's got to lock in to the face on the Pro-Cut. And it will do that twice per revolution. I have also taken the liberty of placing the transmission in neutral. I did that off camera because, you know, it doesn't make for a very good video. All right, sneak attack. Meanwhile, back at the demo, you can now see that we should have, just going to bring this in a little bit closer, which is actually going to give us enough room to clear the wheel well perfectly. Some cars you can leave the bracket on, some cars you can't. Alright, so we're just going to make sure that we got plenty of room. We'll just back these cutter heads way out. Each tick mark on these cutter heads is 2/1000 of an inch. Sorry, I'm in your way. We're just going to get ourselves a little bit of room here manually. Okay, sweet. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn the lathe on. The transmission's in neutral. And we're going to hit the start. Oops, we're feeding. We'll just pull that guy out. And it's going to true itself up to the vehicle now. It may take a while. Okay, so you can see it says ready to cut right here. The optimum light is not on, so I'm simply going to turn the lathe off. I'll back that cutter head out. And I'm going to flip the hub 180 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to unscrew this, back the machine up, figure out where the hole is. Smash it up tight. And this should get us optimum. You can cut without optimum being eliminated, and I see our shutoff has tripped, but that's okay. We'll just bring this back. Hopefully we'll hit optimum this time. Not a big deal. You can cut without optimum, it's a little more precise if it shows optimum. Alright, so our optimum is not on this car. It doesn't tell us to try again, it just says ready to cut, so it's going to be good enough. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to loosen up this lock. It's kind of hard to do this with a camera in there, but just pinch these together until it touches the rotor without munching up the fingers. Squeeze it in there. And that one. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to take, there's 2000s, there's 4, 2000s, there's 4, and then while I'm rotating it in, I want to make sure we're cutting the whole way across the face of the rotor. You can take up to, I think, let me look at my cheat card here. See what, you can take up to 20 thousandths per side. So that's a lot. Obviously your rotor only has so much life in it. I am going to just check right quick, see how we're doing on the back. Yeah, we got a full cut going on the back, so we're good. I'm going to bring this guy in. I don't want to let it hit the hat of the rotor. That would be bad. Tighten that down a bit. Okay. Then I'll just let the machine auto feed. We'll put our anti-rattle device on. You can hear we've actually stopped cutting, so I'm going to disengage the feed. Well, I guess I'll let it finish. There's a lip on the edge I kind of want it to cut off. We're going to take one more pass because we were a little bit too conservative on how much we cut off this rotor. It's in pretty bad shape, so you can always cut more off. Okay, so if you want to use the auto off feature, you would set this guy up such that about right here, and then once the carriage backs out, it shuts the motor off. It's a nice feature to have if you're gonna, maybe unattended operation. But here's what we're gonna do. Okay, so the machine is off. We're simply gonna back the carriage up to the part of interest. Okay, we're going to turn the motor on. It's not feeding. We're going to loosen our lock, and I'm going to get the front to touch. So there's 2,000ths. There's 4. There's 6. We're just starting to touch. Okay, so 6 thou on the front. I'm going to rob another 2 thou. Another 2 thou. We'll let her cut one more time. Alright, once this is finished cutting and you're happy with the surface of the rotor, decently so. This rotor is pretty trashed. You can definitely tell that actually it's kind of reverse tapered. The rotor's pretty much wore like that. I look at the pads, can't really quite see it too much on this one, but this one's got a little the old tip department going on, so definitely needs pads. This is a car last year. We put new slides in the caliper. Probably should just have the calipers replaced, but that's neither here nor there. When you're done with the machine, usually this handle welds on a little bit. We'll just back it up and basically just pull the machine away from the car. If you're doing this on the other side, you will flip the machine upside down. So the motor part, is, let's say it's facing this way, it's going to be facing that way. Otherwise, the lathe works pretty much identical. Fairly simple to use. I would recommend practicing on the passenger side because everything's right side up, easy to use. At this point, I'm going to take these 5 lugs off, and I'm going to put some spray paint on one of the studs and the face of that rotor. Reassemble everything. If this was a live car on the road, I would definitely mic this rotor here. I don't have a caliper out here, unfortunately, to make sure it was within its throwaway dimension that we could still continue to use it. So just taking a look at it, how bad the pads look, how bad this rotor looked on the back side at least. I'm pretty sure it's ready for the scrap bin. So that's pretty much all there is to it. We're going to use the single donger, or the double donger on the single donger. Just push that piston back in a little bit. Gives us a little bit more room for those pads. Yes, I made sure there was room in the master cylinder before I did this. Now, without dropping this on the ground, we'll go find me the bolts. There's a little clip here you want to kind of be mindful of. I can see it's hooked around town. Otherwise, you'll just sit here and fight this. We're going to set it to like torque setting 2. Gentle ugga-duggas. Okay, there's that guy. I'm sure the boot's all happy. Boot's happy. Caliper slides. Yeah. Flashlight check. Spare parts check. Tire rubbing the wheel well check. Alright. Okay, ready to put the tire on. Well, there you got it, folks. That is the condensed version of Pro-Cut PFM 9 on your Pontiac. Car's definitely seen some better days. Rotor's pretty wasted, not worth saving. Oftentimes visual inspection will pretty much tell you that. So before you drive out that door, make sure you pump up your pedal nice and firm. Double check your brake fluid reservoir, all of that good stuff. Check your measurements on your rotor and all of that stuff. Help avoid comebacks, things like that. So with that being said, I always appreciate you watching. Take care.